So we are at an incredible point of transition. We've spent almost a year with everyone. People have been thinking big. They've been thinking far out in the future. They've been thinking about where do we need to be? Where do we have to get to for the children of Louisiana? And so now our transition is actually being able to take our big ideas and figure out how we're going to implement them. So the next part, to me, is going to be really super exciting, because this is the part where we take the vision and we work to implement it. And that means all these partners plus many, many more people beyond the 1,000 who've already engaged. Now we're going to get to thousands of people basically who band together and work together so that the ideas start to become tomorrow's reality. So far, we have our co-chairs who run two fantastic organizations, the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children, and we have our newly formed provider association that Rochelle is running, for Providers by Providers. Those are wonderful representatives, but we look around and we see so many other organizations who've already stepped forward and have said, this is about me, this is for me, this is the people that I'm serving. And some of those are the Louisiana Partnership for Children. We have Agenda for Children. We have Chambers of Commerce representatives. We have all different kinds of representatives here. We have people who are leaders around maternity care. We have leaders around children's health. But it's not just these organizations. And actually, if I want to say what is so special here, what is so great about this is organizations, they range from large-scale organizations to tiny little organizations. They're working on state policy, they're working in community. So all different types of organizations. And even more than the organizations, GoFar has successfully recruited and included individuals from community, parents with children, people who are in and out every day and are taking the time and finding the time to prioritize coming to this table, contributing not only their experiences, but their ideas about what's working well and what the solutions are that we need to get to that will not just work for them, but for their neighbors and others in their communities as well. So that is something I really love about this. But I want to say that it's not just a view of valuing what do families want, what do families experience. GoFar also has said the individuals who provide healthcare services to pregnant women, the individuals who provide child health services, the individuals who provide early childhood education, those people are really critical because they are day in and day out with our family members. And GoFar has attracted people in those roles from all over the state to say, we are forward thinking, we are standing by the families that we are serving, but we also recognize things that we need to change about what we're doing and ways that society can help us to get that done. So from what I sit and see, I really see a really tremendous coalition, because this coalition doesn't just bring together likely allies. That is not enough to make change. This coalition is saying, let's get unlikely allies together. Let's really try to figure out what do we have in common and how can we move something to be bigger than just what I can do by myself, and bigger for community, bigger for kids going into the future. So we have 5 parts of this plan that this group came up with. And these are really owned. In fact, at the very first retreat of this group, that was the major part of the work, is that this community of people sat together, processed information that had been all over the state to be collected, and said, where do we need to focus? So the first thing, actually, because this plan is about building a system, all right, this is around saying every child in Louisiana counts. The experience and opportunity for each and every child is important. And that means that there are some systems things that have to occur. So the first part of this plan is really to say that the system, the policies, the resources, the things that the public sector is driving have to be heavily influenced and impacted by the voice and the experience of family members and people who are providing services to people in community. And that is the family and provider-driven system component. That right now is first, because that is a part about the future and sustaining what works. That is the idea that more voice, not just this is my idea, but more influence and more impact is needed in terms of what the public sector is doing on decisions. What are planning decisions? How are policy decisions? What do things like can look like in implementation? How do you make changes? How do you proceed so that the great things and great ways that government can be a partner to really meaningfully support families, empower families, have families making their own decisions, can also be driven by those experiences. So that is why right now, the way this is talked about is, that is infrastructure. That's a fundamental building block, basically, for where we need to be. And I have to say, there are plenty of nice examples within government in Louisiana where there is good listening. But we are talking about getting beyond great listening to really saying, what can we do back and forth that is more empowered, more co-creation, more just like, good, you said this, okay, we're thinking of doing X, does that make sense as a great solution for us? So goal number one. Okay. Another big part of this plan is something that's being called a net that works. What is a net that works? If we talk to our families, and through all those listening sessions that Power Coalition had, GoFar did talk to a lot of families. One of the clearest things that families communicated was that it is really tough to figure out what's available for you. It is hard to understand what's available to support you as a parent. It is hard to figure out what's available to really assist you as you're thinking about your child's educational needs when they're little for childcare, as you have a child with a special need and maybe they need more than what you're able to give to them, how it is you get access to these services. So a net that works is exactly what it says. How do you do a better job of building up community by community ways that we know that families can learn about and get to what they need? And that also includes things like asking, where is there government red tape in these programs? So it's not just, did we get information to everyone, but challenges back to people running programs to say, the programs themselves need to be set up so that families experience them without a lot of red tape. Yes, with accountability, but without a lot of red tape. So those are really critical goals within that idea of a net that works. I think we can all actually really relate to that. And people who are parents, people who are grandparents, all those ideas. And honestly, I think even if you don't have kids, this concept of how do I know what's there that I want to be able to help my family, all right? That's pretty fundamental. So another goal really is around a healthy start. I think we all know that science, and that science reminds us that where we begin has such a critical influence on where things end for our children. So the healthy start is really around what is a great maternal health experience and what is a great child health experience. And so this piece is just super critical to what happens with our next generation. What happens basically in the maternity side and in the child side. Another big area of this plan is around childcare and early childhood education. And that really is around childcare everywhere, childcare for everyone. So let's first talk about what does that mean, childcare everywhere? Well, Louisiana actually has a lot of rural communities, it has urban communities, it has suburban communities. When you take a good look around the state, you can see that there is not childcare everywhere. There are people everywhere, but there is not enough childcare in all the places it needs to be. So that is a fundamental idea within childcare everywhere. The idea of childcare for everybody is that there are barriers for families to get what they need from childcare. Most childcare is paid for by family members. It is not paid for with government money. for many people in the state, it is well beyond what they can afford to pay. So that concept of child care for everyone includes making it possible for families to pay for quality. It also means making it possible to pay the women, mostly who do this work, at a competitive wage, because they are doing amazing teaching, high-skilled work for which they are extremely underpaid. That is part of why we don't have enough child care everywhere, because we're not paying them enough money. And then there, of course, is this idea that child care, as I've said, the same with what we do for health care. Child care is a building block. If we don't start that out well for our children, they cannot reap the rewards of what they're going to get in the public education system. It makes it so much harder for them in terms of their contributions to our economy. So the big ideas of child care everywhere for everyone are really to get to child care that is fantastic. Families love it, the children love it, and it has a huge benefit for our educational system and as an economic driver for the entire state. So that's another, really critical element. And then the last piece of this plan actually is also around all of us, because it is around family-friendly workplaces. Parents, grandparents, people work. That is the society we live in. And we have a lot of reasons that people want to work. People like being productive. People really enjoy that way that they contribute to society, and it's how people earn a living and take care of themselves and take care of their family members. So family-friendly workplaces is really that recognition that family and the economy go hand in glove, and that we need to really work on ways in which workplaces have a good understanding and are good partners with families, everyone understanding in the end, work, of course, it's about contribution, it's around productivity, it's around an economic concept. But within that economic concept, I think we're beginning to understand people's productivity and commitment goes back and forth with an understanding of how do you take into account that people are part of other communities, they have family members, and things happen that require some flexibility there. So that's part of what we see in this other big idea, basically for family-friendly workplaces. Go far, Louisiana.